am pleased to open John Jay's Emerging Leaders of Justice event series, where today we're celebrating Hispanic Latinx Heritage Month. My name is Ada Hernandez. I am part of the Adelante cohort. As a first-year student, we have access to many opportunities and experiences to build our Adelante familia, improve our academic experiences, and prepare us to be leaders. This program has helped me grow professionally by engaging in networking events, practicing my public speaking skills, and has created a place for me to expand my horizons. As a proud Hispanic serving an institution with 44% of our student body hailing from Hispanic backgrounds, John Jay celebrates Hispanic Heritage Daily, but we take this month to specially celebrate the history, culture, leaders, and achievement for Hispanic community. I am honored to introduce our keynote speaker, the Honorable Brooklyn Borough President Antonio Reynoso. Borough Reynoso is a proud Brooklyn native and the child of Dominican immigrants. Reynoso is now the first Latino Brooklyn Borough President and is specifically the first Dominican Brooklyn Borough President. Since taking office in January of 2022, Reynoso has advocated for affordable housing, reforming criminal justice policies, and increasing police accountability, addressing public health inequities, and helping small business thrive. As a former council member and two-time chair of the Sanitation Committee, Reynoso worked tirelessly to keep our communities clean and advance sustainability. He led the effort to reduce the amount of trash in northern Brooklyn by 50%. Reynoso advocated for the Latino and Black community by playing an instrumental role in passing the Right to Know Act, which reduced the stop and frisks throughout the city. Borough President Reynoso's dedication to helping the people of Brooklyn and New York City has been evident throughout his career. I am so excited to hear from our rising star. Today's conversation will be facilitated by Erica Bond, Vice President of the Justice Initiative at John Jay College. VP Bond has experience in the government, nonprofit, public policy, and legal sectors. She previously worked as the Policy Director at John Jay College Data Collaborative for Justice, a research organization that aims to advance safe, just, and equitable communities throughout data and regional and criminal justice policies, operations, and reforms. VP Bond also served as a special advisor for the first deputy mayor of New York City and worked at the Laura and John Arnold Foundation. After graduating from Fordham University School of Law, she was a litigation associate at Kane Scholar. I thank the Office of External Affairs for arranging this program and the student participants. Please join me in welcoming the Honorable Antonio Reynoso, the first Dominican Brooklyn Borough President, who will give a brief opening remarks, and then we'll sit for a Q&A. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Hi, my name is Antonio Reynoso, and I'm very excited to be here and presenting for this Hispanic Heritage Month with a group that I consider family out here in John Jay. And thank you to the Adelante students and Aida for introducing me. And I'm very looking forward to the conversation that we're going to have, more so than the lecture that I'm about to give you. So yes, I am the first Dominican borough president in the history of New York City, and the first Latino in Brooklyn specifically. I'm also the youngest borough president elected to a 4-year term. And those are all things that I did specifically because of the work that my parents put in to make sure that I was successful. I'm a son of Dominican immigrants from Puerto Plata. They came here extremely poor. Sorry, I have allergies. They came here extremely poor. So we were on welfare, food stamps, Section 8. There wasn't a government subsidy that existed that my family didn't have to take advantage of just to give us a shot in life. But my family was very dedicated to education, and I was very fortunate to go to a private high school and to a Jesuit private college. And in doing so, really gave me the opportunity to level the playing field and do what I'm doing now. Because I was poor, I really felt the need that when I graduated college was to take care and take on issues that were important to my people and to the environment that I grew up in. So I decided that I wanted to be an elected official. So I started working as an organizer first because Barack Obama had just gotten elected, and he was an organizer before he did anything. And I wanted to follow that path. So I was an organizer for about a year, and then I started working for an elected official, a city councilwoman from the district that I represent. From there, I ran for office in 2013, and I went against a 27-year incumbent. And it was one of the first years where they introduced campaign financing, which allowed for younger, poorer, or young people that don't have a strong network as long entrenched elected officials to be able to compete. So I didn't need to raise the $1 million he raised. I was able to use campaign financing to give me a shot. I beat him about 60 to 30%. And it was a huge victory for us in the beginning of my career as city council. In the city council, I passed 2 pieces of legislation that are, well, I passed a lot of pieces of legislation, but 2 that are the most significant. One is the Right to Know Act, which you just heard Ida use or say when she introduced me. And that legislation specifically was to ensure that the interactions between police officers and the people that they're interacting with was safe and de-escalated at opportune moments. And it's exactly what ended up happening. We almost have no more illegal consent searches happening in the city of New York after we passed this law. I also passed a law related to trash, where now in the district that I grew up in, we used to handle 70% of the city's, 40% of the city's trash, but 70% of the city's trash was handled by the South Bronx, North Brooklyn, and Southeast Queens. Now, cumulatively, those districts will see 50% less trash running through their districts, which contributed to deaths by the trucks that were running people over, pollution, and also we had one of the worst companies running the trash in the city of New York. And since then, we've been able to reform the system. And now I'm here. I run for borough president. There's never been a Latino borough president. Latinos account for 14% of the population in Brooklyn and about 11% of the voting population in Brooklyn. So I went in as an underdog. When we first did our first poll, I was in 3rd place, but I worked hard. I let people know exactly who I am, what I'm about, and how much I care. And the people of Brooklyn, the residents of Brooklyn, decided to make me the first Latino borough president. And I'm deeply grateful for that. Since then, I've worked on 2 initiatives. One is called comprehensive planning, which is extremely nerdy, so I won't get too deep into it. But I think we need to not just build in the city, we need a plan, and we don't do that. And the other one was Black maternal health. Black women are dying at 9.4 times the rate as their white counterparts during childbirth. So I decided to spend all of my money, my first year in Borough Hall, $45 million, to outfit our local public hospitals in Brooklyn with state-of-the-art birthing centers. And my goal is to make Brooklyn the safest place for all women to have babies in 4 years, and hoping that I can make it the safest place for all women to have babies in the entire country in 8. So that's where I am now. And then I got an email from you guys, and now I'm here hanging out on this great month celebrating Hispanic heritage. So thank you so much for having me, and I'm really looking forward to the conversation.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much. Good afternoon and welcome to the Brooklyn Borough President Antonio Reynoso. On behalf of John Jay College, I would like to welcome you to this celebration, and it truly is a celebration having you here for Hispanic or Latinx Heritage Month. We are just thrilled to have you with us to celebrate our history, our culture, but really to learn about your inspired public service journey. Also to learn about the role of the borough president, because I think that's a role that's not really understood by a lot of folks. And also to learn more about how you're uplifting people in Brooklyn. And I will just say, as someone who gave birth in Brooklyn, I am so thrilled to hear about these really important investments that you are making to keep women and mothers safe in Brooklyn and ensure that they can have successful pregnancies and births and can rear healthy children across the borough. So that's just a wonderful initiative. to hear about. So thank you so much for sharing that. I kind of previewed for you my first question, which is that I don't know that everyone understands what is a borough president? What do the borough presidents do? What are their responsibilities? And so what is it that we can expect, right, from a borough president? It's clearly a different role. You served in the city council. We can talk more about what you did there, but what's different about the role of borough president, and what responsibilities and opportunities do you have that maybe aren't available to other elected officials?
Yeah. So the borough presidency, back in the day, before the revision of the charter of the city of New York, borough presidents had a significant amount of power. They were small mayors more than anything else, and had their counties. They had a significant amount of power when it came to land use. But what ended up happening is that the borough presidents were not reflective of the population of the city of New York, and they weren't represented. So very, very few people, especially Black and brown people, felt that their voices were being heard by these borough presidents, because there were only 5 of them, and also the Board of Estimates, which is also a small group of folks. So there was a revision of the charter of the city of New York, and it created the city council, and it changed the powers of the borough presidents. So what I now have under the city charter as a responsibility and as a mandate is, first, we get 5% of the city's capital budget split among the 5 borough presidents based on land mass, population, and poverty. And I have the largest borough, and I have the largest population, but in the Bronx has the highest poverty rate. So depending on that, you get funding from the city. This is the reason why I had money to give to the hospitals to do this work. So that's the first thing we get. The second thing is we make recommendations on land use. So everywhere you go in the city of New York, something's being built. Many times, the owners of those buildings have to come to us if they want to go from 6 stories to 8, if they want to put a commercial space on the first floor, and so forth. And we make recommendations to the city council as to what we think is the ideal height or zoning map for any property in the city of New York. So that's the second thing we do. And then we have something called community boards. Community boards, there's 18 in Brooklyn. There are small 50-person boards that make recommendations to me on every single aspect of Brooklyn life or city life. So we have 18 of those, and they're like introduction to civics. So that's mostly the authority that I have through the charter. But the number one thing that is not in the charter that a borough president has is the bully pulpit, the influence. The borough president speaking or the borough president taking on an issue garners more attention and more support, and has the borough presidents have the ability to influence decisions made by City Hall. So I would say the bully pulpit would be the most powerful thing that I have available to me. That's pretty much what a borough president does.
That's great. Thank you so much for breaking that down for us. Because it's, like I said, I think it's a little understood position, but clearly comes with some important responsibilities and some significant dollars, particularly if you decide to marshal those dollars, for a big initiative like you did with your maternal health initiative. And I do want to circle back to your nerdy comprehensive planning, because I know I'm curious, and maybe some of our students will be as well. But you made this point about the use of the bully pulpit and how you have this role where you can speak, even if you can't always act necessarily, you can speak to a lot of the issues that are important to residents of the borough. And at John Jay, we encourage our students, of course, to be fierce advocates for justice. And you've done all kinds of work throughout your career around affordable housing, sustainability. Some of those trash efforts were certainly music to my ears, health equity, and public safety. And so you're really a social justice champion. So one question I know that I have, and I'm sure many of our students have, is kind of what are the issues that you're most passionate about when it comes to social justice? Where do you feel like it's really important that you use your voice to advocate? Because you know that there's inequities that Brooklyn residents and folks all throughout the city are experiencing.
Yeah, right now, what I'm using the bully pulpit most for is closing Rikers and the migrant crisis. I think the mayor is making bad decisions, and it's a bad take, hasn't necessarily planned in the right way, and is not expounding leadership on either of these issues. When I was the city council, we voted to shut down Rikers and open up smaller jails that were more humane. I want to be clear that there's no such thing as a humane jail, but just more humane than what we saw in Rikers. And this mayor is backtracking on it. Things get difficult with this mayor, and he makes excuses. Traditionally, when things happen in the city, whether it's 9/11, whether it's the financial crisis, whether it's COVID, the mayor's kind of, it's tough, but we're going to get out of it because we are New York. That's what we are, and we always come out of it. This mayor kind of throws his hands up at crises, whether it is Rikers saying that he wants to delay it for 2 to 4 more years to close, whether it's the migrant crisis and saying that the city will be destroyed by the migrant crisis. These are examples that are unusual for a mayor to speak that way. Most mayors want to inspire, want to bring people together, have New York show up and support on the agendas or on the work that needs to happen, and he's not doing that. So right now, specifically with the migrant crisis, I think that he believes that his only job is to house the migrants or warehouse the migrants. As long as they got a tent over their head and a cot, then he thinks he's done his job, and it just isn't the truth. We should start moving forward with ensuring that they're filling out their applications to receive their TPS, their temporary protective status, to be able to get work authorization. There's so much more we could be doing, and he's just not doing that. And he's kind of washing his hands of responsibility and leaving it all to the federal government. So I'm using my bully pulpit here to counter him as much as possible. And in doing so, putting pressure on him to do better. But those are 2 issues right now of our time that I think we need more voices involved and more advocacy that I'm taking on specifically against the mayor. And the borough president, naturally, I have even though Eric Adams used to be the Brooklyn Borough President, now I'm the Brooklyn Borough President, we have very different ideologies and ideas related to policy. And if I'm not able to speak on it, then I fail my people, and I fail the folks that decided to elect me to get here.
So thank you for that, and for giving those concrete examples of how you're using the bully pulpit and the issues that you believe are important to Brooklyn residents. I will tell you that the Close Rikers work really resonates with me. That was a project that I worked a lot on when I was in the mayor's office during the de Blasio administration. And I think it remains a really urgent issue given what we know is happening inside of the jails, and making sure that that issue doesn't get lost. That question of how do we create the most humane jails we possibly can? How do we reverse what has been decades of neglect in the jails is extremely important. And then you talk also about the migrant crisis, which is obviously at the top of everybody's minds here. And one thing I really appreciate about some of your comments is just that you are raising examples of some of the things that we need to do. So using your platform to talk about what are the concrete steps we can take as a city to try to address the influx of people who are coming here to make a better life, like my parents did, my family did. And making sure that we're giving folks the resources so that they can get jobs and integrate into the city and be, members of our community. So appreciate all of that work, and thank you for those examples. I do not want to dominate the conversation because we have students here who I know have great questions and want to learn from you. So I am going to ask Marisabel Aybar to come onto the screen and introduce herself and ask the borough president a question.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Marisabel Aybar, and my question for you is, what advice will you give to the next generation of leaders, especially first generation Latinx and immigrant students?
Yes, thank you so much, Marisabel, for this question. And this is going to be a little tough. I'm just going to try to be as honest as possible, because I think, especially for the Latino community, I want you to be successful, And I think that it's lost upon some people, the effort that needs to be put in to be successful. You know, when you come from, especially the Dominican Republic, the folks that do come from that country, let's say, we come here to work. We come here to improve our lives. And we got to be very careful about thinking that working hard is not a value that we have to maintain to be successful. And a lot of things are changing now. And, you know, people are moving through life in a different way than when I was there. And if you want to separate yourself and you want to show that you are special and that you can be something special, you're going to have to work harder than the next person. So what and with no excuses. So I would start with two things. We are all born into circumstances and we do not control those. But what we do control is what we do after that. I was poor, deeply poor. You know, we went hungry, concerned about whether or not we were going to make rents. We were on welfare, WIC, you name it, we had to take advantage of it, right? But that didn't define me. It's a part of who I am, but it didn't define me. But I worked harder than anybody around me, always. And right now, there's this idea that you got to work 9 to 5, and that's it. And that anything else is absurd, you know, and I get it. I think there's a lot of abuse by corporations that is unnecessary and that is unjust. But in the world that I'm in politics, you can't think that you're going to work 9 to 5 and be successful. You have to be able to separate yourself from the rest of the people. And how do you do that if you're not working harder or more than someone else? So I just want to impose like this idea about working hard. And then the other thing is no excuses. Just don't make excuses for yourself. For too long, the circumstance in life, people want to talk more about, you know, what's bringing them down than what's bringing them up. And it's people making excuses. I didn't speak English when I was here. I didn't use that language barrier, or the inability to speak English was not what was going to keep me down. Just because it was like my two sisters and I slept in the same room, very tight quarters, that's not going to hold me down. I went to a school where the educational opportunities were extremely limited, but it wasn't going to hold me back. Nothing held me back. I didn't let anything hold me back. And I think people make too many excuses. And they say that their inability to progress is because somebody else is holding them back. Which, by the way, circumstances happen. There are laws, there are policies, there are situations that are true. They are holding you back. But you can't make excuses for it. You just got to overcome them. So that's something that I really want to preach to Latino, Hispanic, and Latino students. Don't make excuses and don't let the circumstances that you have in life hold you back, and work hard. And the last thing, and I know I'm talking a lot, but I really want to impress upon you as much as possible, is love. And I had to find out about love at a very late age in my life. Like 22 years old, I understood the power of love. So I moved through life loving everyone. I love everyone on this screen, and I hope they feel my energy. Because I find out that in life, whatever you give the universe gives you back. And when I was younger, I was a very angry kid. I was a very sad kid. And that's what the universe gave me. I got into a lot of fights. I got into a lot of trouble. And I wasn't happy. As soon as I said, I'm just going to start giving love. The people that hate me, I'm going to hug them. I mean, it's okay. There's no problems. I'm playing basketball and somebody bumps into me. Not a problem. Just was like everything was love. And I was like a little hippie for about 2 years of my life. And since that moment in my life, when I decided to make love the foundation of my work, I've exploded. Is the trajectory from 22 years old to where I am now is like the fastest trajectory that I could possibly have done under that age timeline to become the borough president. I'm 39 years old, is the youngest borough president in the history of the city of New York. I couldn't have accomplished that if I didn't have love at the foundation of what I did. So the circumstances don't define you. Work hard, no excuses, and have love at the foundation of the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marisabel.
Thank you for that question. And thank you to the Borough President for leading with love and sharing that advice with our students. I see that we have a number of questions in the Q&A, so I am going to read some of these out.
Mhm.
One of these is from Edward, and I'm sorry, Edward, I'm going to mess up your last name. I think it's Snader. And his question is, what can young Brooklynites do to help the borough struggle with intensive redevelopment and gentrification and the displacement this creates? And what do you think can be done for the borough's future as borough president? And I know you're from Williamsburg, so I know you know something about this question, both from personal experience and your work as an elected official. So tell us, what are your thoughts about gentrification?
Yeah, so my thoughts on this have evolved significantly since I've been like 22 years old when I came back from college until I am now. I'm from Williamsburg, where over 20,000 Latino residents were displaced within 10 years after the 2006 rezoning. So there was a complete just like gutting of Latino population in Williamsburg. I used to be in a majority minority district when I was a council member, which meant I represented more than 50% of the population is minority. When I left in 8 years, I was only 38% minority and mostly white. So I know the ill effects of gentrification, full stop. I would say this, that the problem is we have no new housing in the city of New York, and we have a ton of people moving in. There are, in just 10 years, I think over 140,000 new people moved into Brooklyn. And in that time, if we built 20,000 units of housing, it's a lot. And I know you see a lot of the buildings going up, but even the largest building that looks exaggerated might be 300 units, and we need 100,000 units. What I would say is the way to advocate to prevent gentrification is to build in more affluent white areas. The problem we have right now is all the development that happens exclusively in Black and brown districts. In Brooklyn, it's in North Brooklyn, Bushwick, Bed-Stuy. Those areas are developing. But the places that are not developing are Bay Ridge, Sheepshead Bay, Canarsie, those areas, Midwood, and that's South Brooklyn and mostly white populations. What we need to do is encourage development to happen everywhere, not just in Black and brown neighborhoods. So now there's space for other people. If they don't find housing, they're just going to price you out. If you got a $1,500 apartment in Williamsburg, somebody will pay more than you. But if there's a ton of housing all throughout the city of New York, no one's competing for your apartment. Everyone has their opportunity. So it's a supply and demand issue. So what I would say is when you hear about development that needs to happen in portions of the borough or of the city that are not Black and brown neighborhoods, that you support it. Just look at what the council member looks like. And if it is a white council member, then you should probably be supporting every single development that can possibly happen in that district. And I'll give an example. Williamsburg created over 10,000 units of housing over the last 10 years. And that is a largely Latino community. Bay Ridge built 80 units, 80 units. So 10,000 and then 80. There's no gentrification. There's nothing happening in Bay Ridge. They're not contributing to the greater good of housing. So I would say that advocacy that white affluent areas contribute to the housing crisis the same way Black and brown communities have contributed over the last 20 years.
Thank you for that. So what I'm hearing is a more equitable rezoning across the city, right? Because a lot of the neighborhoods that you're describing, I think of as kind of like low-rise, single-family homes throughout a lot of those communities. So they're not building at the same kind of rates that you see in denser parts of the city.
We're not talking, Erica, we're not talking about in Bay Ridge, if you have a one-family home that we built a 20-story tower. But if in Bay Ridge, the one-family homes turn into 3-family homes, it makes a huge difference. And that's not happening. So we're not even going from 1 to 2 or 1 to 3. That's not happening. But in Williamsburg, we went from 6-story buildings to 24-story buildings. And that's what, so now everybody wants to be here. And they can't go to Bay Ridge because there's no housing. So I would just say, yes, it's equitable development, and the development be respective of the growth pattern of that neighborhood. We're not going to go from 1-family homes to 24-story towers overnight, but there needs to be some progressive growth of housing in those areas just as much as there is here.
Thank you for explaining that nuance to us. I'm going to go to another question from our students. I'm going to invite Giovanna Rivera to please join us on her screen if she can turn her camera on. And please go ahead and ask the Borough President your question.
Hi, my name is Giovanna Rivera. My question is, what are some of your more favorable experiences and biggest challenges as a council member?
Okay. Well, thank you so much for the question. For me, the more favorable portions of the city council was writing legislation. As a borough president, you don't have legislative authority. The only people that have legislative authority in the city of New York is the city council. The mayor, the comptroller, the public advocate, and the borough presidents cannot write laws. And to be able to sit somewhere, think of something, and actually be able to write a law to change it is an experience, a profound experience that you can't imagine. I would sit there and see these trucks in the streets of my neighborhood, just barreling through constantly, old trucks with black smoke coming out of them. And I was just like, why does this exist? And I did a little bit of research, found out that we handled a lot of the city's trash in the manufacturing section of Williamsburg. And then I said, what if I want to cut that in half? I don't want this many trucks. It's like, you can do it. You can pass a law. And I passed the law and reduced truck traffic in my community by 50%. And just that idea that I can sit here, look around, and think of solutions as to solve these problems in my community that have been hurting them forever. We had 3 times asthma rates than anywhere else in the city in Williamsburg. And this was a contribution of that. It's like, you could do something about it. So I would just say the most positive parts are the fact that I had the power to affect meaningful change in people's lives. The hardest part was that I did things, I wasn't a traditional elected official. I didn't use the powers that be to get elected. I got elected by, Doña Conchita gave me $5, Doña Maria gave me $20, like little by little trying to get money, to raise money to do this campaign. So I didn't have the unions supporting me. I didn't have the county party supporting me. I didn't have any of that stuff. I did things on my own, for my people, through my people. But I voted against the budget one time in the city council because it cut education, healthcare, schools, CUNY budget. It cut all those things. And I said, I'm not going to vote for a budget that does that and doesn't touch the police budget. I think that that's unfair. And a lot of council members were angry at me. They were very upset with me. And I think that the hardest part is that people take things personal and they think that what you believe in a policy decision is something is against them, or it's like, I don't like them versus I don't like the policy. But voting against the budget, something I'm very proud of, but it built bad blood. When I just talked about love being at the center of what I do, I'm always trying to try to separate this policy work with the personal work. And that is hard to do. I'm able to do it, but not everyone is. So I say the camaraderie went down in the city council after you take bold positions against power. I was only one of, I believe it was 4 people that voted against the budget. And I became an outcast, but I also became the borough president because of it. So I took a bold stand, and I was rewarded by the people of Brooklyn. So those are the two things.
Thank you.
Thank you for that great question, and for your honesty in that response in terms of the personal and how that plays into politics as well. I think this may actually kind of be a relevant question. Elsa Sofia Morote put this question in the Q&A, and she asked, as a Hispanic leader, what strategies do you believe are essential for integrating new Hispanic employees into the public sector and mentoring them for success, taking into account the unique challenges they may face?
Yeah, this is public service is deeply rewarding, and I think the recent elections with presidents that we might not agree with, a mayor that's an autocrat. It's just like, it doesn't inspire people to want to do this work. Right now, the city of New York has 20,000 jobs available to it. There's a hole in the city of New York, 20,000 jobs. These are jobs at Department of Homeless Services, Department of Health and Human Resources, which are do the food stamps and the Section 8 work, jobs in schools. These are all, in the 1970s and the 1960s, these are the most valuable jobs in the entire city. They were city jobs. You get a union, you get a pension. It's the best jobs you can get. And the fact that we have 20,000 of them missing and not, empty or are not being filled right now, I think is more of a reflection of how inspired people are to work for the city of New York or work for Eric Adams versus the job itself. The job is valuable. It obviously is. People want it, but they don't want it if the head is Eric Adams. And I think that's a problem that we're going to have so long as he's there. That's a personal thing. But what I would say, to be successful in public service, it's about commitment. It's a commitment. Too many people change jobs. You do job 1 and then you go to job 2. You don't like it, you do job 3, you go to job 4. And it's just your ability to move up is very difficult when you move a lot. Because most of the time when you move a lot, you're moving laterally. You're going left to right. You're not going up and down. For our people, consistency. You start in an agency, let's say, or public sector work, and you're starting at a very low salary initially. But as time goes on, you keep getting new positions because of the time you're in. You keep getting more money. Your pension is stacked up, and before you know it, you're at retirement age. But I think that there's a consistency issue. Things get hard, and people want to move. And moving is going to take away all that time you invested in the organization, in the agency. So what I would say is focusing on being consistent, and for our people specifically. Also, there's very few disadvantages for Latinos, specifically because we are bilingual. Many of us are bilingual. There's great opportunities. So I want to be very careful about thinking that, we do have challenges, but we also have advantages, and we can sell that in a very positive way. So don't shy away from it. If you want to do public service, do it, but be consistent. And it'll make all the difference in your life, personally in your life, but also in the city of New York that would reap the benefits of your service.
Thank you for that. And I think that's a really important point about thinking about kind of what you contribute, not, what the challenges may be, and always thinking about, what you can offer. I guess I wanted to dig in a little bit more about this question around mentoring, because I imagine, I don't know, that you benefited from mentors in your life. And I think for a young person, I know it was certainly true for me as I was developing in my career. I spent a lot of time thinking about how do I find mentors? What should I expect from them? How do I develop those relationships? Because we know that hard work is obviously a cornerstone of any successful career, but a lot of it is also the relationships that you develop. And in particular, ensuring that there are people who will be both rooting for you and looking for opportunities for you so you can move up. I'm so curious to hear your thoughts about mentorship in particular.
Yeah. Mentorship, I agree. I think mentorship for Latinos is much tougher, for Latinos or Hispanic people in general. Most of us are immigrants that have gotten here. I think maybe the Puerto Ricans got here like in as early as 1950, but most of them in the 1960s and 70s. The Dominicans in the 70s and 80s. And then we have an influx of like Central American and South American immigrants. So when you look at, I guess, generational success, we don't have, what the British that got here, in 1776 or whatever it is. They've been able to develop all the power that they've had, and they're able to impart that to the next generation. For me, for example, when I needed assistance for running for borough president, I didn't have anybody to go to that was Latino. There's never been a Latino in a citywide position in the city of New York. There's never been a mayor, a comptroller, a governor, a public advocate. We've never had that. So who do I talk to give me info on what I should be doing to be successful? And it's very difficult. I would say that that finding, Eric Adams was able to talk to David Dinkins, that because there was a Black mayor in the past, and there's never been a Latino one. So I'm just saying, in general, I know it's a little more harder for us because we're lawyers now, we're judges now. This is John Jay. So just like in the criminal justice system, and the work we're doing in criminal reform, whatever it is, we're starting to really be there, but we're limited. For every one Latino judge, there's probably like 20 white judges. So again, it's just harder for us. It doesn't make it impossible, but it's harder. And the mentors that I had were not mentors that were tied to the career that I wanted to go to, right? Where they were more like life coaches than they were career coaches. They were just helping me with like, these are good practices to have to be successful. Not necessarily in being a politician or and so forth, but they taught me about love. They taught me about hard work. They told me how, my circumstances are going to make things more difficult, but it is not an excuse. Everything I'm telling you now is something that somebody imparted on me. I would say that to find a mentor, if it's a teacher, if it's somebody that's older, you don't always need them to be tied to the work that you want to do, but you can take mentorship from somebody that's been through life already. And I'll give another example, and I think we don't do it as Latinos. Our parents ultimately take on the responsibility of mentorship in a deep way. And we might look down upon the fact that many of them weren't able to be successful on an education path, never graduated from college. My mother got a 5th grade education, and my father never went to school, right? But their life and how they got here and how hard they worked really gave them some insight as to like how to be successful, how to raise children that graduated college. They have value. So I would say some of the mentorship parts is, if we want to be successful, the new wave might not get us there. But the way your parents did it, that's a proven model. And you should really like to talk to them as much as possible. And I think that they would be very open. They would be surprised. It was like, mommy, talk to me about this. When you work, how do you feel you made advancements? How did you build relationships and so forth? I think that's valuable. So try to find one. Also, the last thing is, when you have a mentor is not somebody that talks to you every day. A mentor is not somebody that talks to you every hour. This could be somebody that meets you once a month, if even. There's somebody that can meet you twice a month. But when you get them, you really got to extract as much as possible. If you get 1 hour with somebody, ask questions. Don't be shy. This is not just about eating lunch, hanging out, and talking about football. This is about sitting down and being intentional about your future and asking questions that you believe are necessary for your advancement.
Thank you. I love that advice, that be prepared, right, to sort of take advantage when there are mentorship opportunities that come your way, and ask those questions, because you're not going to necessarily get another opportunity to do that. And I appreciate your honesty about the lack of mentors, right, particularly in some industries, in politics. I know it was true for me in the legal field. There were not a lot of Latinas that were partners at the law firm. And so that meant I got some mentorship, in other places, and I found some mentors at the law firm who could help me. But it was really on me to take advantage, right, and try to find those folks who I felt like I could learn something from and could help me in my career. So thank you for that advice.
But also here, Erika, Eric, so Erica and myself are people in the Latino community that have really done well. And this event here is an example of an opportunity for mentorship. It might not be a one-on-one mentorship, but the information that we're going to give you is invaluable. And we've been through the hardest of it all, right? There was nobody in these fields. Erica was probably one of the few lawyers in a room, if ever. When I was doing politics initially, there was no Latino elected officials. They were all white men. And now things have changed and they've progressed significantly. But take advantage of these moments. There's a lot of knowledge and information being imparted, and you got to soak it all up, especially if you're a first-generation immigrant and you just got here. These type of forums have a lot of value. So don't just sit there because you feel like you have to. Really like integrate yourself into this presentation today. And I hope that whatever I have given you, whatever Erica has given you, has added value to your day and hopefully your life.
Thank you for that. And the students know that I'm at John Jay every day. So please come find me. I'm happy to give advice and to mentor where I can. And thank you for that reminder. We are coming up on time, and I want to make sure you have a few minutes just to give any closing remarks that you want to share with our students, any last words of wisdom. But before we do that, there was one other question that was very clear and specific that I think one of our students had, Stephanie Aida Quiroz. She asked about the community board. She wants to know if we want to join our community board, how do we go about doing that?
Yes. So depending on where you live, there's an application for it all. What I would do, Erika, I'm going to send you guys a link so that they can all apply. For Brooklyn, we're going to open that link. Usually opens up in January or February, but we'll send you the information and you can apply. All you need to do is be 18 years old, live, work, or pray in the community, and be 18 years old. That's all you need to have. And you could be a part of the community board. We're looking for a ton of new people. We're looking for a ton of young people. So I will send you that information through John Jay. And I would love to see a bunch of resumes and applications that say John Jay student on it, because we really want to expand and diversify our community boards. And to close, I just want to say, I just think being a Latino is about the most amazing thing that has happened to me, that I was born into, especially being Dominican. And I don't want it to be like prideful in a sinful way. But our people chose to be here, right? Like the African-American community, the Black community did not choose to be here. They were forced to be here through slave trade. And it's a very hard thing to be able to, have deep roots in a place that forcefully brought you here, that didn't love you, that put you into slavery. It's just hard in a way that it doesn't exist for Latinos. We came here because there was opportunity. We made a choice, no matter how difficult it was. The choice could have been, our countries are not doing too well, but we decided that America's where we wanted to go. And now we're here. And what makes me most proud is that it doesn't matter where you go, you make it happen. Latinos never make excuses, never. They just make it happen. And whatever you're going through, your parents probably went through worse, especially if you're first generation. Your parents had to come here, learn a new language, find a job, figure all this stuff out. So I would just say, keep that tradition alive. Keep the no excuses aspect of what it is to be a Latino. Keep that with you always, always. It's just like, I'm going to be successful and nothing can hold me down because I chose to be here. My parents chose to be here and we're going to make something of it. So, and I always say that there's a difference between the American dream and like the Latino dream, because the American dream is you work hard and you could be successful. The Latino dream is you work hard so the next generation could be successful. Honor your ancestors, honor the people in front of you, and leave a legacy. And the way you do that is by working hard and making no excuses. So I'm really happy to have been here. I'm sad that this wasn't like a celebration where we could like dance merengue or something, but I'm really excited to be here and appreciate you all. And thank you, Erika, for helping me, and to everyone at John Jay for inviting me. It's an honor to even be able to be here and speak to you all.
Thank you so much. Next time in person, we hope. I just want to, again, on behalf of all of John Jay College, I want to say thank you to the Brooklyn Borough President Antonio Reynoso. Thank you for your inspiring words. Thank you for your inspiring and inspired work. I know a lot of what you said resonated with our students, and lots of good advice and information for them to take with them on their journeys. And hopefully in a few years, we'll be hearing from another Latino borough president, John Jay grad,
Yes.
who's inspired by your work. I want to thank our students, Ada for her wonderful introduction, Marisabel, Giovanna, I think is still here with us as well. Thanks for your questions, all of the folks who put questions into the chat. This is why I love the John Jay community. Everyone has so many thoughtful questions and really took advantage of this wonderful opportunity with the Brooklyn Borough President. We hope to see you again soon, and thank you for all you're doing for Brooklyn and for the city. And I hope everyone has a wonderful evening.
Bye. Thank you.
Take care. Goodbye.